Good evening, guys. Warm welcome to the session. So, in this series, we are going to see various question and answer for those who are preparing for the interview. And one of the common question is how to reduce inventory. That's what we are going to see in a different angle. Okay, inventory is not only dependent on the work of supply chain professional. In fact, every function in the organization is going to contribute, and it's a more of a coordination work with all the functions so that you achieve the target. What happens, unfortunately, the inventory optimization is with the supply chain, whereas the impact or the increase or decrease in inventory is done by the work of other team. So let us see in a different perspective. When you get such question, you should be in a position to answer in a different way. So let me attach the screen. So today's question is how to reduce inventory. The better form could have been how to optimize inventory, but I am putting in the same word because many of the people will ask still how to reduce inventory. It's not a correct question. You can always ask how to optimize inventory, because if anyone knows that inventory you cannot simply reduce by throwing out inventory. There are a lot of other things are connected to it. Okay, if you are reducing inventory, it's going to directly affect the customer service level. So the better wording for the person who is going to ask this question should be optimization of inventory. Maybe if you can also correct the word, you can say inventory cannot be reduced, but it can be optimized because it is already linked with the customer service. If I am going to directly reduce inventory, then it's going to directly impact the customer service. So there are various function which is going to impact the inventory management, starting directly from demand management. Demand management involves in demand forecasting, and possibly sometime they are attached to marketing or sales, or in the recent time they are also added the dotted responsibility to supply chain. So the less the forecast error, we are going to have a better inventory control. If we have lot of error or many organizations do not measure the error, then the problem on inventory is going to increase. Next one could be even a product design. There is a concept called standardization or commonality, which means the design can be something like a modular. Okay, you want product X, then you can choose three modules. If it is product Y, then another different three kinds, or mixing of some module. So this is called modularization. Sometimes standardization is used. You can see in terms of the component used should be standardized. You should not have several for example, bearing or the switches or nuts and bolts should be standardized across the entire design. Only one set should be there, and where possible, it should be common for across the product. Okay, each product there should not be a different design. In fact, this is a starting point where you can reduce. The more the types, more varieties, and no standardization, no commonality is going to result in higher inventory. Though supply chain cannot much influence, but at a senior level, I was able to convince my management to have more of a modularization, more of standardization, more of commonality, so that overall inventory is going to come down. Okay, when it's coming to marketing, they can also support, because marketing always wants to have a higher inventory and lot of variety, which means for you, you have to have a lot of inventory. So taking up with the marketing in a right perspective, and optimizing the variety which we are going to sell to the customer is going to reduce inventory variety. Of course, purchasing can also contribute. One of the major villain for inventory is MOQ, minimum order quantity. You may have a requirement of 10 or 20 units, but supplier may say 100 units or 200 units, which means you may be ordering either 10 months or 1 year worth inventory at a time. Though many times purchasing cannot have much control, but still they have to negotiate or get a different supplier. Except when there is no much competition, you cannot do, your purchase guy cannot do. But many time for this, most of the parts you have a choice. You can negotiate for a lesser volume. If you want monthly volume 100 piece, why you want to order 1000 piece, even if there is a saving in price? And I have seen many of the organization, if you pick up their inventory list, you can see at least 50% of the item have a MOQ, and many items can have more than 6 months requirement or 1 year requirement. And if you do analysis of this item, I have seen at least 10% of the item we are forced to order more than 2 or 3 years requirement. Okay, so purchasing should also be involved at right time. And there is something called quantity discount. I want only 100, but supplier is teasing the purchasing guys, you take 500, I am going to give 20% discount. So they become very happy, because purchase has a different KPI which is not aligned with the supply chain. Possibly sometimes they will take management approval also. They are saying, if I am going to order a large quantity, I'm going to get a huge discount. So management also approves. What is right in this case is, somebody in supply chain should highlight what is the saving versus cost of holding this inventory. And you can always put this extra inventory on purchase it. MOQ or quantity discount is the responsibility of purchasing, but it doesn't happen like that, because finally the every responsibility on inventory comes to supply chain. Then we can also negotiate with the vendor on something called consignment inventory. Okay, it all depends upon who is stronger, whether buyer is stronger or seller is stronger. In case a buyer is stronger, you can always tell uh, that they can supply the items, but it will be inventoried only when it is consumed or billed to the customer. Okay, possibly you can see this model works fine with Amazon or many other e-commerce platform, because they are gained. Whatever they tell, the vendor follows. They have no choice. But unfortunately, if you are a small buyer, this cannot happen. There is one more concept called vendor managed inventory, but here the inventory is not affected, but you are going to give visibility to the vendor, maybe even a management or planning of inventory, so that right level of inventory is maintained. Okay, but in this case, as soon as the inventory enters the buyer organization, it is the property of buyer organization. Whereas in consignment inventory, even if seller property is in the buyer organization, it is considered to be a property of seller, and it doesn't come into the books of the buyer till the item is consumed. So it also depends upon the buyer seller relationship. Coming to the planning function, this is where supply chain comes into play. There are many times the mistakes happens when they plan for the material in terms of MPS or MRP, possibly when they are training for the juniors, because unfortunately in India we do not have a formal education. Even in the SAP MM or any other module is trained sometime back, and whenever the new people enter, they are just learning from their senior. No formal training is there, or no formal education is there. And that's where especially for planning guys, using ERP appropriately is very very important. Otherwise wrong scheduling can happen, extra material can come, or shortage can happen. So planning has lot of responsibility in this, but it is, they are not the only people for inventory management. Of course, in any organization, depending on the forecast, how better it is, you are going to have obsolete inventory, which you cannot sell to the customer. So there should be a timely disposal of this material, or maybe sales should take up this, because of them this item has been ordered. Possibly they can plan some discount to sell to their customer, or this is how most of the organization manages. And in case it is possible to return to the same supplier, it can be done. But in any case, finance should also support. If nothing is possible, they should approve for timely disposal of this item. Hope this is will be of help, seeing from a different perspective. Because if you are thinking only supply chain is responsible for inventory, no, there are other factors place. In fact, their contribution could be 60 or 70% to the inventory management. So, if you have any questions, you are always welcome to contact me. I am live both in LinkedIn and YouTube. If you need any clarification, you can chat or comment so that I can respond. This is one of the fundamental in interview question, and most of the time even I have seen seniors falters on this question. Some people have told safety stock is equivalent to the total inventory. The people who have 10, 15 years experience, you have to be very careful on answering this question. Maybe each one of this we can see in the subsequent session. For example, I was talking about commonality, modularization, standardization. These are design concept. Possibly they are not aware how it is going to impact the inventory, so they will design as per their requirement, which is not correct. Dr. Shushil says a very good insight. Thank you for your comment. So, if anything is required, you are always welcome to reach out to me. Thanks for your participation. Have a nice evening. Bye.